I was never very good at riding bicycles, as evidenced by the many accidents that I had, but I loved doing it anyway. If there was one moment of my life that I wish could have been recorded, it was one bike accident that I call the hay truck story. I had already biked about 30 miles, and I wasn't very far from home. I ended up stopped at a lone red light out in the middle of nowhere, about a mile or two away from town. I don't even know why a stoplight was put there. There was a convenience store sitting at the corner of the intersection, but that was it. Everything else was farm fields as far as the eye could see. Well, I was feeling thirsty, so it gave me a moment to get a nice drink of water. I was really tired and I was eager to get home. As I sat on my bike waiting for the light to turn green, a pickup truck pulled up right alongside me. A guy with a cowboy hat sat in the passenger seat, and when he turned to look at me, I noticed because his hat turned too. It caught my eye. I couldn't help it, so I turned to look at him. Sitting in the driver's seat was another guy wearing a cowboy hat, and they were both looking at me. As we all stared at each other, I also saw that their truck bed was full of hay bales, and they were pulling a trailer with about twice as much hay as was on their truck. I was feeling a little judged because I really did look a little silly in my biker shirt, biker shorts, biker shoes, wearing a biker water pack. I looked back at the light again. It just wouldn't turn green fast enough, but then it did. The truck immediately pulled away. When I jumped on my pedals, I was surprised to find that I had all my energy back. I pedaled as fast and heavy as I could. I didn't bother to look up. There was literally nothing but fields surrounding the road. I was flying at a right quick pace when I did finally look up. That hay truck that had been at the light was right in front of me pulling off the road. I had just a very few seconds before I made impact. Time literally stopped. I thought about swerving out into the road. I might have had time to pull off that maneuver, but I didn't have time to look behind me for traffic. I risked being run over if I swerved without looking. I didn't have time to hit the brakes to do any good either. I realized that my head and neck were pointed right at the huge hay trailer with hay bales piled higher than me. The only thing that I could do was make sure that I didn't break my neck when I hit it. I let go of my handlebars and started to sit up. My bike began to collapse beneath me when I struck the back of that hay trailer. My face hit first, right before the rest of me slammed into the hay bales. It was the weirdest feeling in the world to twirl through the air like an ice skater with hay flying everywhere all around me. I thought to myself, oh man, this is gonna hurt when I land. But then the awesomest thing that could ever happen did. I landed on my feet facing the same direction that I had been going. Stunned, I looked down at my feet and then either side of me. I think I was looking for my bike, but I couldn't find it. I turned around and there it was in the middle of the road along with two hay bales. Beyond my bike, I saw that stupid stoplight turn green again and a fresh wave of cars began approaching. I realized that I didn't have much time to get everything off the road. I took one step toward my bike and tried to take a breath, and the sharpest pain penetrated my chest. It hurt so bad that I put my hands over my chest and fell into the road. The two guys jumped out of the hay truck. One of them shouted, "Get out of the road, you idiot!" I watched them run towards me. I tried to say, "I can't breathe." They kindly grabbed my arms and dragged me off the road. The approaching cars stopped. Several folks got out of their cars to help clear my bike and the hay bales out of the road. I finally managed to catch a few breaths through the stabbing pain. I sat up. A half a dozen cars lined the side of the road. I could hear some kind of shouting. I stood up and past the parked cars on the other side of the road. There was another biker standing there, looking as silly as I did in his biker clothes. He shook his fist in the air and shouted, "Why aren't you watching out for us bikers? You're going to kill one of us one of these days." That biker continued ranting. Another guy jumped out of his car with a cell phone in his hand. Not a lot of people had cell phones back then, but this guy did. I heard him demanding as he walked briskly towards me, "I need an ambulance down here right away." I waved my arms at him and tried to say, "I'm a poor college student. I can't afford that." He took his phone from his ear and said, "What?" I repeated myself, "I can't afford an ambulance." The man looked confused and then said authoritatively, "I'm not going to call off the ambulance until I get you checked out." "How are you going to do that?" I asked. The guy looked around and then said, You. He picked the two guys from the hay truck. "Look him over," he ordered. The driver got behind me and the passenger took front. The biker on the other side of the road was still screaming. I was surrounded by at least 10 other guys. I was feeling so embarrassed standing there as those two guys were scanning me over. The guy in front of me got about halfway down my body. He opened his mouth and gasped in shock. I looked at his face and he looked at mine, speechless. I thought, oh no, are my guts hanging out? The man wouldn't say a word. It looked like he was trying, but he couldn't. I finally spoke up. "Dude, what's wrong?" He swallowed hard and said, "Is there something wrong with your hands?" I immediately shouted, "What? and I threw my hands in front of my face. I looked frantically at my hands. I still had my red biking gloves on, but I couldn't see anything wrong with them. I turned them as much as I could, but I still couldn't see anything wrong with them. I thought to myself, there's nothing wrong with my hands. Why does he think there's something wrong with my... And that's when I realized. I shouted, "No, I'm supposed to look like this." He shouted back, "What?" I spoke less loudly. "I was born like this. My hands are supposed to look like this." The poor guy exclaimed, "Oh my God, I thought we had ruined your hands for life." Everybody in the circle started laughing out loud at once. The guy looked in shock at me and said, "Are you really okay? You're really okay?" "Yes," I reassured him. "I'm fine." I tried to laugh, but I couldn't because of the pain. I heard the man with the cell phone say, "It's okay. He's okay. We don't need an ambulance." The crowd dispersed. Some of the guys were still chuckling and wiping tears away from their faces. The cars disappeared. The passenger of the hay truck put my bike in the back of his truck. He took me home. He said, "You know, when my friend started turning in front of you, I saw you coming and I asked him, 'Are you sure you have enough time to get around this guy?' My friend said, 'Sure I do.' I looked in the mirror and I saw hay flying everywhere. I said to my friend, 'You didn't make it.' I started laughing and I still couldn't. The passenger of the hay truck dropped me off at my apartment. I said goodbye to him. My busted bike and I attracted a crowd of my friends from my apartments. 'What happened?' one of them shouted. I related the story to my friends and they all busted out laughing just like the circle of guys at the accident site. One of my friends said, 'You know what you should have done when that guy asked you if your hands were okay?' 'What?' I asked. 'You should have done this,' she said. She lifted her hands up to her face and screamed, 'Ah!' Everyone laughed loudly again. I tried to laugh and I coughed in pain. She snapped her fingers while saying, 'He would have gone down like that.' Again, more laughing from everyone else and more strange sputtering from me. I can't snap my fingers. The pain in my chest didn't go away. I went to the hospital and found out that I had 2 broken ribs. A small price to pay for such an awesome story.